What up, dude bros? I'm Frank. This is my modified Nerf Stryfe. Now just a spoken overview of the components and the modifications to let you know what's going on here. It's all based around a Nerf Stryfe with a 3D printed parts like body kit on the outside. Internal modifications, it's a full rewire, so I took out all of the electronic and mechanical locks of the factory Stryfe, replaced the wiring with low resistance wiring, replaced the rev switch with a low resistance Omron switch, and that was installed using a 3D printed switch mount by Out of Darts, available on his Etsy store, link in the description box to that product. That makes installing the micro switch way easier and faster, so you could just snap it right on in and glue it in. The battery is stored in the factory tray area, but I dremeled it all out because this is being run on a 2S LiPo. So I wired that up to an XT60 connector. That's what all my LiPos are wired for. I dremeled out as much as I could of the battery area to make sliding in the new 2S LiPo as easy as possible. And I even added a worker or F10555 3D printed extended battery cover. And that's to give even more space to it so I can actually flop the XT60 connector on top of the battery and then shut it with this extended door. It's not totally necessary, but it makes installing the LiPo way faster and easier. I'm no longer running the factory motors or flywheels, but I'm using the factory motor housing. So I've replaced the motors with 130 size motors optimized for a 2S LiPo. That's why I'm not running the 3S. And I believe those are the vamped motors. I'm really happy with the performance, and I will be using this motor flywheel combo in the future. And this particular motor flywheel combo was recommended by Out of Darts, so I took his recommendation and I'm super happy with it. I also replaced the flywheels themselves, like the spinning unit that contacts the darts with. I believe they're made by Containment Crew. They're called the Cyclone flywheels, and that combination of the motors with the flywheels, it's getting great performance that's also very smooth. The worker combo kits that I've been using in the past are high crush, so they kind of smash the darts. They achieve a really high velocity, but they can damage darts over time. This combo is still yielding a pretty high velocity, but it's not smashing the darts, and even on the trigger pull, it just feels like the dart is slipping through the flywheel. Compared to the worker flywheel setup, when you push a dart through that, because they're high crush, it feels like you're really cramming a dart in. With this, it's not quite as crushing, so it slips in and the firing mechanism just feels really smooth, like a well-oiled machine. Perhaps the casual nerfers might not even notice, but I know the experienced nerfers appreciate little details like that. It just feels great every time you press the trigger. Other internal mods, though, I have an extended wire cover, also by Out of Darts. It's a 3D printed component because I'm using thicker wiring than what was in there. I have a different cover to make sure my magazine doesn't strike those wires. I'm also using an extended magazine release, and it's just a bigger flappy paddle, so it's almost impossible to miss when you go for a mag reload. And those are all of the internal modifications that contribute to the performance. Overall, I'm really happy with the performance of this Stryfe. And this motor flywheel combo is phenomenal, and I'll definitely be using this in the future with 2S LiPo packs. I put the blaster up on my chronograph, and I achieved an average velocity of 119 feet per second. Going beyond that 119 FPS average, the total range from the lowest shot to the highest shot is much more compact than the worker alternative, and especially an IMR alternative. Shooting really quickly through the chronograph, the velocities were still super consistent because I'm running on a LiPo instead of those IMRs. Because the IMRs don't have the same current output, and your motors could experience bog down, and that kind of like you shoot one and goes, that's a result of the motors being stressed and not having enough current to keep up at their max RPM. But not with a LiPo. I can actually finger bang this and just shoot as fast as I can, and it's a straight line. Like the velocity is not dropping off like if you were to finger bang a normal Stryfe with IMRs. Finger banging is very quickly activating the trigger. BT dubs. So those are the internal mods and the performance. This external kit, I believe, is by XSW. It's not by Worker. Most of the 3D printed parts kit I use are by Worker. This one's not. It's based around the HK416, which is a rifle, like a real steel firearm. But I bought it knowing I'd modify it. I didn't actually install the gas block, which would be the front component, and I dremeled out the inside of this rail system so I could fit in this Worker suppressor, because I knew from the get-go I wanted to make this a Honey Badger kit. The Honey Badger concept is just putting a suppressor inside of a rail. Like there could be a more official definition, but that's the definition I'm running with for this project. And if I'm wrong, Honey Badger don't give a brah. But this front rail system doesn't fit the worker suppressor without modification, so I had to Dremel out some of the inside. The modification's not visible from the outside. I just had to clear out some of the crap on the inside to fit in the suppressor. But I think it looks super cool. And this stock is a functional adjustable stock, so you just strike the little button underneath and you can slide this in. It's not really designed to be taken off the Stryfe. There's actually a set screw on this side, so after you stick it onto the attachment, like the stock attachment lug, you're supposed to screw it in. And the idea of a PDW stock, or like a really compact stock like this, is so you don't have to take it off. You just compress it, because it's only like a couple inches longer. So I won't take the stock off, I'll just leave it on. And the paint, I regret painting it these colors. I sort of more or less forgot about a previous project that I had already done, and there's a reason I really like this color combo, but I pretty much already have the same blaster right here. Not the same internal mods like at all, but this is just a gray, you know, very similar looking front end. Different, but also very much the same. My response to any haters, Honey Badger don't give a Overall performance out of this blaster is phenomenal. I'm very happy with the motor upgrade, the flywheel upgrade, and even running on a 2S LiPo. But excellent velocity, excellent consistency. The dart flying into the flywheels is just super smooth, so the trigger pull, I mean, I've lubed up the trigger mech, so it's all super smooth and just feels awesome. And with this barrel setup, the suppressor doesn't really negatively affect performance, firing velocity, or like accuracy. So it looks super cool, and I'm really happy with the cosmetics. It's definitely not for everyone because it's more realistic. And I do need to be super clear, this is not a blaster I would ever walk outside with or use in a public event, like in a public park or anything. This looks way too realistic. Even with the little orange tip, this is not an acceptable thing to run around with and pointing at people, because you'll scare the out of everybody around you. So if you use your blasters outside, totally don't paint your blasters dark, even with the orange tip. It's just not a good idea. Paint them super bright colors, blue, orange, or just don't paint it at all, whatevs. This kit actually came to me orange. You can install it onto an orange blaster and it looks fine. That concludes the overview of this Stryfe project. Again, link to everything I used in the description box below. Huge shout out to Out of Darts and his Etsy store. He set me up with pretty much everything essential to this kit: the motors, flywheels, the 3D printed mount things, those little switch mounts. They look so simple and you might think, well, I could just use some hot glue, but it's like $3 for this little thing, and it just makes your installation of the low resistance switch just perfect every time. So why not? Certainly not out of laziness, but you can put your focus into other elements of the mod when you don't have to do the grunt crappy work like spacing out a little micro switch, and that's just annoying. It's not really fun. So links to everything I used in the description box if you'd like to replicate the project. That concludes this modification overview for my Honey Badger Stryfe. Thanks so much for watching, bros, and as always, stay tactical.